Well, Dion, we say it every year, at least I say it every year, that, man, I can't believe we're already to week 7 or whatever, and like the playoffs are right around the corner. I really can't believe this. I have a senior playing. That's how fast it's going, right? It goes even faster when you're kind of in the game. But man, I mean, we're right in the middle of October here, and playoffs are right around the corner. It's week 7 for Missouri, week 6 for Kansas. There's only 8 weeks and 9 weeks in those 2 states. Here we go. It's on.
Yeah, no, it does go by fast, and I feel like it's going by faster this year because it's not as disjointed as last year was. The starts and stops, and some teams starting late, and teams missing games. We had some of that early, but it's been pretty clean since the first couple of weeks of the season. There's been some spots here or there. I mean, down in Class 1 and Class 2, like St. Michael was supposed to play Southeast this week, who stopped their season. They were going to pick up Crestridge, who was supposed to play Lincoln. So they got COVIDed out, but that's about it. You've got more people trying to find games from Clinton not fielding a varsity team in Southeast stopping their season than you do from COVID.
Is the Clinton ripple effect still going?
Yeah, Harrisonville's off this week. So Excelsior was off last week. And I don't know, Harrisonville got thumped by Center. I don't know if they want to get back out on the field and play a game or take a week off. So no, it's going to be an interesting week. It's going by fast, and we'll start off with the hat again this week. I was
former employer there.
Yes, I've got a few things that say either Metro Sports, Time Warner Cable Sports Channel, and I don't know if I've got any Spectrum Sports stuff. I don't know if I have any. I think they got stingier when it went to Spectrum, but
that's the new name now.
That's the new name now. So yeah, no, Time Warner Cable Sports Channel. I used to always pick up 1 or 2 things over time, and I was going through. I didn't really have a good hat this week. I thought about I have a St. James hat, but that's a 1-4 team. That was a good win by them. So I don't know. I mean, I was kind of looking through. Mill Valley with a win over Free State was definitely in position. So we'll see
if they get a win this week over a great Olathe West team. Then maybe wear it next week.
Well, I've got 3 hats that I could wear, but those teams I think are combined 1-14.
Maybe they need the mojo. Okay, they need that vibe put out there in the universe. By the way, this is Snap Tackle Pod. I'm Mick Shaffer of KSHB 41 Sports. He's Dion Clisso, PrepsKC. We're getting this thing out late, so hopefully you see it Thursday night, Friday morning. But we are heading into high school football weekend here, and it is going by fast. Let's recap about 6 days ago or so what happened last week, because there's a lot. I want to start on the Kansas side, Dion. There were a lot of eye-opening wins. You had Shawnee Mission Northwest kind of thumping Lawrence, right? And all of a sudden, you got a Cougars team who's 3-2. And their 2 losses are to a 1-loss Olathe West team who beat Olathe North, who's just mowing down folks, and a Lawrence Free State team who just beat Mill Valley, who only has 1 loss on the season, and that's to Olathe North.
Yeah, Blake Reeder stepped in at quarterback after playing receiver last year. It took him a while to kind of get his feet underneath him, but you could really see in the last 3 weeks how he's kind of taking control of that team. And then their tailback, Malik Oatis, Oatis.
I think it's the O and the A. Yeah,
I blame my age and my Royal fandom on that.
Yes, exactly. I want to say Oatis every time.
Yes, so Oatis, and he last week goes for 100 yards receiving, 100 yards rushing, 5 total touchdowns. And somebody was asking about Simone guys, and it's like you think Henry Martin and Mikey Pauley, those are probably your 2 front runners. Here's a guy at Shawnee Mission Northwest, and they've got some games down the stretch where he may put up some big numbers, and they could be a sneaky deep team when it comes to the postseason, because they're good. When they get their offense going, they're pretty good. Now, they've run into some teams the last few years that have slowed them down and made them not play their game. But no, I think Bo Black has done a fantastic job with that program. You see what he's done in that time there, turning them totally around. And it wasn't just his son and that class. And you can see what they had behind it. Yeah. And they were a little tough in the beginning, but they've gotten it going the last 3 weeks.
At Olathe Northwest, at Gardner, home to Shawnee Mission South. This Shawnee Mission Northwest team that could finish the regular season 6-2 very easily.
Oh, very easily, very easily. Yeah. Olathe Northwest has improved. They kind of peaked in week 1, I think, maybe. Yeah. They got 3 wins after that, but they're kind of facing a little bit tougher teams. I mean, the win over Olathe West is impressive. It is a win, and you got to give it to them for what they had. But they've stepped up in class a little bit the last 4 weeks and suffered a couple losses.
Blue Valley, big win over Blue Valley North. We talked in the preseason how are we going to figure out Northwest and Blue Valley? How's it going to shake out? I feel like Blue Valley's been kind of like that third wheel as we've been just doing and awing at North and Northwest. Well, they jump up, back up. They've already beat Aquinas. They jump up, beat Blue Valley North, and say, hey, we're still at the party too. I thought that was a big win.
Yeah, they lost the week 1 to Blue Valley Northwest, and they haven't lost since. Offense has been dynamic. I think we talked about it last week that their defense is usually one of the when they're good, their defense is really good. They don't have as much defense this year, but they're going out and scoring. And Grayson Holbert and Michael Solomon have really done a great job with that offense. Holbert, the quarterback, who's a dual threat guy, and Solomon, their tailback. And of course, they've got Davis and Lockett, the 2 really good receivers who have NFL family pedigrees.
Right, exactly. Some good genes there.
Yeah. So, they've got all kinds of guys who can do things athletically, but no, it's a good group. And I tell you, it's going to be interesting to see how this game, how they do this week. They've got Miege and how they do the rest of the way. Cause really they're kind of through their toughest part of their schedule after this.
They are.
It's
Miege and West are very capable.
Yes.
Southwest is, like that entire EKL, but that's another team that, could end up the regular season 7-1.
Yeah, very easily. And that's 6A is going to be crazy. I just think it's going to be crazy. And it's going to be matchups and playing good football.
And in so many of these schools, right? You'll have both Lawrence's and Gardner. We're going to be on the west side, kind of battling it out. And you have those great EKL schools. I'll tell you, the top of the Sunflower League is really shaping up with, and the 6A schools of Free State, Olathe West, Olathe North. Don't forget about Lawrence as well. We talked about Shining Mission Northwest. There's a lot of teams that can make runs. It's going to be, just interesting who matched up with who. Listen, I want to talk to you about this team. At halftime, it was a wow score. It was still eye-opening at the end, but it was 28-0 Spring Hill over DeSoto at halftime down in 5A in Kansas. Ended up being 28-14. But we talked about that being a sneaky good game last week, and Spring Hill just made sure it wasn't. It was all them. All Broncos.
Yeah, they dominated the first half in that game, and Adam Burns, who covered it for us, said DeSoto is a team that is young, but you could tell. He goes, you could see when they get clicking in times. They're still DeSoto and they're tough and they're good at their schemes. He goes, they're not as consistent with it as they have been in years past. He said, but Spring Hill just came out and really just dominated. Chris Olson, their tailback was really good. Fletcher Pankey, their quarterback, he's got like 10 or 11 touchdowns, no interceptions. When your quarterback is not throwing interceptions and you're not turning the ball over and you play pretty solid defense, you're going to win a lot of games. And you're seeing that now. And I don't know where a loss is going to come for Spring Hill at this point. And they are off to their first
not undefeated the regular season. Yeah,
not in the regular season. First undefeated start since 1990. A few weeks ago, I had them on our site as they hadn't won a conference title since 1990. Coach Feedback reminded me that his first year or second year, which I think was 2016, they tied at 5-1 for a conference title, but they haven't had a conference title by themselves since 1990. I think they started out 11-0 and lost in the playoffs. So yeah, it's a good run for them right now, and they look legit. 5A on the east side is not, there's some favorites, but it's not like, oh wow, it's going to be these teams, and we could see
there could be more players than the typical Mill Valley Aquinas. That's what it's come down to for the last 5 or 6 years. No, absolutely. We always applaud the Kansas v. Missouri games. Missouri v. Kansas. St. James went over across. Actually, it was St. James went to St. Pius last week, and St. James got their first win, right? And you look at records, you're like, wow, the 0-14 going to beat Aquinas, but there are very different schedules that have been played at that point. It's always interesting to see what you have a 4A team in Kansas, a Class 3 team in Missouri, which a lot of times is similar in school enrollment. But I thought that was kind of another eye-opening win.
Well, and you look at St. Pius, which technically in enrollment's a Class 2. And I emailed with one of the guys who does the stats and sends me the stats, emailed me, and I said, you guys shouldn't be hanging your head. He goes, oh no, that was a good. He goes, they were bigger than us, and he goes, that was a great game for them. The Pius people were like, I think that is going to be a game they're going to try and play every year, from what I can tell.
Cool.
And I think it's a good one between those two teams. And I think it's the first time that maybe St. James has walked out and said, hey, we're bigger than somebody.
Exactly.
And it was probably that, oh, hey, we are a team that's good enough to play for, was playing for a state championship, win a state championship last year, we changed some, and they're getting better. They've developed some more players in there. And we were talking with one of the coaches last week, and he said that, Tyler Claiborne's their outstanding receiver. Everybody was just doubling him early. And now they're the guy on the other side's developing, so it's opening up their offense a little bit more, so they're getting a little better. That's a team that could probably maybe have 2 or 3 wins going into the postseason and maybe in the semis.
Yeah.
Very
let's
easy.
stay on the Missouri side here, Dion, and that plucky underdog Rockhurst, right? Has won 3 in a row. But against some good teams, it feels like Kelly Donahoe and the Hawklets are kind of coming into form here.
Yeah, they're getting healthy. They got a receiver back. They got their quarterback back a couple weeks ago. They kind of just committed to Joe Leggio as their tailback.
Yeah,
all 6'2", 245 pounds of him, and he's getting the ball 30+ times a game, averaging 6 yards a carry. So I mean, he's a load, and until someone stops him, they're going to keep doing that. And you know, it works off a lot of stuff they like to do anyway, some play action, things like that, fullback leads, things that, you know, it's Kelly Donahoe style of football. If you've got a tailback that's real consistent, he doesn't need a home run hitter. He just needs somebody who can grind it out. And their defense is getting better. And the sophomores that they've been starting have been playing a little bit more. So they've got DeSmet this week. They're at DeSmet, so it'll be a good test for them. They got CBC down the line. They play Blue Springs in a few weeks at the end of the season. I don't think that's really that much of a game, but no, I think it'll be interesting to see where Rockhurst slides in. They're in the district with Ray Peck and Lee Summit North, and those are the top 2 teams probably in that district in terms of what they have. The district standings don't always reflect exactly where teams are, but no, that's going to be interesting because they're also with Joplin and Nixa down south. So that's kind of an interesting district all the way around.
And football down there is just exploding. I mean, Joplin, Carthage, 2 of the top teams in their respective classes.
Yeah, and you know, Joplin made the state championship game a few years ago. Nixa came up here and beat, or Lisa West lost to Nixa last year and came up here and played Ray Peck in the semis, and so you know that was a big game for them, and to get to the semis last year. So there's a lot of good teams, and I think that district's going to be interesting because they would go on to play that DeSmet CBC Kirkwood district, and then the Liberty North district would play the other district, which is, I wouldn't say it's not that good. I can't really remember who's in it. So that tells you all you need to know.
Hey, shout out to Aquinas, by the way. We talk about teams playing from both states. I mean, they went on took on the best team in Missouri in any class, CBC, and tough one last week. But I mean, Aquinas, just the schedule. They've got the EKL, and then their non-EKL teams, they're just taking on powerhouses as well. So they're going to be more than ready for the 5A playoffs. One more team on the Missouri side that had a good win last week. I mean, Center just hammering what is a really good Harrisonville team. What happened there?
Well, I tell you, you know, that they've got some size, they've got some speed, and I think if you can't handle their speed,
well, they've always had speed. I mean, if they have size, I mean, watch out.
Well, I think, you know, they play Odessa this week. Odessa's won 30 in a row, and this is as close as they're going to come for a while.
Odessa's played a couple close games. Is your dog, by the way? Is that your dog making?
That's my dog. I figured I'd let him out of the kennel this week and see.
It's the only room in Dion's entire house. They only have one room, and everybody's just crowded in there.
Well, to let you know though, he's a 10-month-old lab puppy. So I mean, he's still a baby, and it's a whole. We might as well have just had another baby. It would have been easier than to have the lab puppy. But no, I think Center Odessa is a great game. It's one of our Remax Big 3 games, and you know. What makes Center tough is they've got a big physical tailback who's a sophomore, and he is really good, and he's putting up 100+ yards a game. And then Joseph, that's Ja'Cory Love. Joseph Vick, their quarterback, is a junior.
I was gonna say, aren't they almost all juniors on down? I think there's only a couple seniors.
I think the funny thing was when we interviewed him for my radio show, Coach Walms always asked about the senior, like the first time he talks to a coach, and he hadn't really. So, you know, there's 100 teams. So, you know, you don't have to look at everybody's roster going into the interview. And he's like, tell us what you like about your seniors. He's like, I like them, all 3 of them.
Yeah. I think when we did the season preview, I think we started out the story with like, here's your 2021 center team. It's also your 2022 center team because is anybody going to be, I mean, everybody's going to be back and they're going to be better and all that.
They are really, I think they could be pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Because I think 3's kind of wide open, and on their side of the bracket, it's not as, you know, like St. Mary's and Blair Oaks are on the other side, Boonville are on the other side.
Yeah.
It's basically like, you know, Odessa and that kind of group right there in St. Pius. I mean, that's it right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, it's definitely one of those deals where I think they're a team that is, we're going to find out exactly what they are.
Yeah.
This I think they're good. I think it should be ranked, and I think if they go to Odessa and beat Odessa, they'll be a team that's going to be tough to beat the rest of the way.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to it here. Remax Big Three games. So we'll start with it on the Missouri side. It's Liberty North and Lee Summit North. Are these the two best teams in the city, Dion?
Yeah, they might be the two best teams in the state. Who knows?
Yeah.
They go to the opposite side of the bracket. This could be a state championship. You know, we've
so
longed for the all Kansas City State Championship game.
It's never happened, right?
It's never happened.
Even on Kansas side, right?
No, not even the Kansas. It's one of those things to where they, back in the day, all the Kansas City schools were in one, district or one quarter of the bracket, and they made, it was always geographical. It was always
going to be. There's only one spot in the Final Four for Kansas City schools.
Yes, yeah, that's how it was. And then over time, with Class 6 and things moving around, you've had a semifinal that had two Kansas City schools in it.
Yeah.
And so that's happened a few times. And then there's been times when they were on the opposite side of the bracket, like Blue Springs and Blue Springs South went to the opposite side of the bracket and went to the state championship game. Blue Springs South won it that year, and Blue Springs, I think, made it to the quarterfinals that year. So there were some times where this is probably the best chance because you've got strength in both districts. You've got Liberty North, you've got Park Hill South in one district, and then you've got Lee Summit North, Ray Peck, and Rockhurst in another. So I think there's a good chance of it. CBC, DeSmet, those people. The beauty of that is that once you get out of your district, you only have to beat one team from St. Louis. You don't have to beat 2 or 3 teams in Class 6. So it's a good thing. I'd like it if there's part of me sometimes would like it if they would either reseed after, like kind of, somewhere in there. And, so you could have 4, because sometimes there's been years where only one Kansas City team's in the state championship game and 3 of the 4 best teams.
Yeah.
And I mean, the year that Blue Springs beat, and I think it's 2013, Blue Springs beat Columbia Rockbridge in the state championship game.
Yeah.
A 5-loss Columbia Rockbridge team, mind you.
Yeah.
And Ray Peck went to Rockbridge and beat him 21-7.
Yeah.
And the AD at Rockbridge walked off the field and shook Tom Cruise's hand and said, "Hey, we'll hopefully see you in the state championship game." And he comes off the field. He told me, he goes, "State championship game? I'm the 6th best team in my conference."
Right. That's funny.
He's like, "Are you kidding me?" It's like, come on.
Funny.
And I mean, Blue Springs went and rolled them just like, that was that back-to-back 12 and 13, a couple, 2-3 NFL players on those squads. So it definitely was, it's one of those things that we could see. And this week is going to be fun. Last week, Park Hill just got shut down by Liberty North. Blue Springs wasn't even in the game with Lee Summit North. I mean, that's expected. The Park Hill team that had just scored a ton of points the last few weeks got shut down. And that Liberty North defense is tough. It's physical, but so is the offensive line of Lee Summit North. And it's going to be a great matchup. I think, if you get big plays, that might swing things. It's going to be an emotional game. I think it's going to be probably the biggest. I would bet money it's probably the biggest crowds ever see the game at Lee Summit North if they, once they get people in there, because Liberty North will travel, and it's a bigger stadium now. They've done some work to it, but it's still not a huge stadium. So,
and neither team was really looking ahead to the big game last week.
No, they did a great job. They did a great job. Yeah. So I mean, you can't beat that.
All right, here we go. We talked Center Odessa already. That's a Remax Big Three game. Mid-Buck and East Buck. I love it. Mid Buchanan, East Buchanan. That's one of your Remax Big Three games. Both are undefeated, huh?
Yeah, both are undefeated. And last year was the same thing. East Buchanan was 5-0 and Mid Buchanan was 6-0 heading into the game. They're both 6-0 this year. No COVID issues this year. So, Mid Buchanan is not quite the team they've been the last few years. They're still pretty good. They're still ranked 2 in the state. East Buchanan is a team that's gotten better the last couple of years. Last year, Daniel Ritter, their coach, told us, he goes, "We're real young. We just hope to compete." And they really didn't compete the first time. And then when they played them the second time, they competed a little bit better. So it's one of those things where they're kind of getting better on that. But there's 4 teams at the top of this conference: West Platte, Penny, Mid Buchanan, and East Buchanan. And East Buchanan has played West Platte and Penny and won by a combined 3 points. Mid Buchanan has played Penny and beat them by 2 points.
Yeah.
So these 4 teams are pretty close. So it's definitely a situation where it's kind of a round robin, and whoever kind of wins that does better in this round robin is going to get the number 1 seed in the district. Now Penny's in another district, but West Platte's in there with them too. And the team that gets that's going to get home field, and you're probably going to play both of those teams, either West Platte or Mid Buck if you're East Buck, or vice versa, you got a good shot of playing both those teams twice.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how that one shakes out. It's a fun one. It's Class 1 football, northwest of town, but it's really two really good teams.
All right, over on the Kansas side, it's fun. We've been looking forward to this week for a few weeks now, because you had Liberty North and Lee Summit North. They're on a collision course for each other. So were Blue Valley North and Blue Valley Northwest. North's only loss was in overtime to Lee Summit North a couple weeks ago, and they go and drop the game to Blue Valley. So maybe this game loses a little steam, but it's two heavyweights, I think, in Kansas 6A this year. And what are we gonna have, like 120 passes thrown this game? They're gonna be tossing all over the yard, right?
Well, don't count out Northwest running game. And they've done a really good job. Grant Stubblefield does
the quarterback run game too,
and Polly too. Yeah, Mikey Polly does a great job. And no, it's gonna be fun to see how it goes, because I think that Northwest is the one coming in, even though they're the undefeated team right now. They've only won one time in like 6 years, I think, in this game.
Yes.
Blue Valley North's kind of
like Northwest has been the basketball school, North's been the football school.
And then last year, I think it flipped, didn't North win the title last year?
Let me
or was it Northwest again last year?
That won between these two? Let me check. I'm on the PrepsKC website. This is how quickly you can move around, by the way. Check out PrepsKC.com. You can get up-to-date scores. And
I was saying in basketball, I thought North won the state title last year.
Oh, Blue Valley North?
Yeah.
No, Derby won.
No, Derby won. Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't that the answer to a lot of things? No, Derby won.
That is the answer to a lot of things. I thought you were talking about the game. So last year, Blue Valley Northwest lost to North.
Yes, I think they beat them one time in the last 6 years.
27, and then last year North got all the way to the state championship game and lost to Derby 56-31.
Yeah. So no, it's going to be a good one. I think the team that Blue Valley North they're going to step back up and get going.
Yeah.
But I think that Northwest is the one that's coming in with all kinds of motivation, and I think they really want to see him. Here he is. Say hi.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I think that it'll definitely be a good one, and I like to see how the defenses match up. You think it's just going to be a shootout, but there's no guarantee of that. So.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of comparative games, and these two have basically played the same schedule so far. So you can glean from those transitive properties anything. There's plenty of evidence there. So
you're making me have nightmares of my 11-year-old's math work that I do with him almost every night. So yeah.
Yeah, there you go. All right, two other Kansas games, Blue Valley and Bishop Miege, and that's at Miege. Olathe West at Mill Valley. Thoughts on those two games?
Well, I like the way Miege is playing. I think that win over Blue Valley West is pretty good. Blue Valley West is a tough team to play. Blue Valley's offense is playing really well. So I think Miege's defense, they're going to find out who they are this week. I mean, I think we're going to find out what they can do. They've gotten better the last few weeks, and I think they're beating Aquinas, beating Blue Valley West. Those are two good wins. Playing Rockhurst tough all the way down to the last few minutes of that game. Was a good one for them. And then Blue Valley, if they can get their defense solved a little bit, I don't know if you can beat them because their offense is so dynamic right now.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of teams are engaged with them for a long time. So no, I think that's a good one. Mill Valley and Olathe West, and Mill Valley, I picked them to beat Free State. The size differential kind of got them there. I think I was buying into they're Mill Valley, they're going to keep winning, knowing full and well this is more of a rebuilding year. And
a lot of people bought into that.
Yeah. I think that Olathe West is a dangerous team. They've already shown up with beating Olathe North. They're in that mix, and we're talking about, we just rattled off like 5 or 6 6A teams who legitimately can go to a state championship game. And
I think it's a strong year on the east side for 6A. I think
the sad fact is I think we've got 6 teams who can get there, but I don't know if we got anybody.
Yeah, who's going to be able to beat Derby? We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. So no, it's definitely a good group to say the least.
Absolutely, and maybe some of those teams like Lawrence or Lawrence Free State along the way can run into Derby and
get
their shot.
You'd hope.
Yeah, you'd hope. I mean, that dog. I mean, let's wrap this up here. What's your dog's name? Because I want to credit him or her.
Angus. Come here.
All right. I'd like to credit for Dion, Clisso, and Angus Clisso's paws. Neat carpeted floors. That's the deal. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we just switched off the carpeted to the hardwood. So yeah, it's definitely a lot louder down here now.
For dog and man, I'm just a man. Mick Shaffer. We'll see you next time right here on Snap Tackle Pod. Have fun on Friday nights.